Okay, we are live. Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and welcome to an interesting show tonight because I want to get talking a lot about the managing situation. We're going to look at some transfers as well because family stuff looks to be heating up in some areas. Other areas, perhaps key targets might be going elsewhere, but we will touch on all of that on tonight's show. Guys, don't forget, drop a like button as you come in and we'll get rolling off with the managing situation. So, Erik ten Hag, Thomas Tuchel, Pochettino, McKenna, De Zerbi, all names being talked about a lot in the media at the minute, and I think it's very interesting to see where this is going to be going because, to be honest, guys, this is the 10th of June. I said I wanted this done 2 weeks ago. I really don't get how we're going into the third or fourth week, whatever it is, of this review, which should have been ongoing the entire season, which I imagine has been ongoing the entire season, without making a definitive choice. Now, I do think if it's going to be a different manager, and I do think if Erik ten Hag is sacked, that there will be an immediate appointment. That surely by this point there has to be a deal done with somebody in the background. If not, I don't know why we haven't come out and backed ten Hag, or at least offered him a contract. He is now back from his holiday. He's back from his leave, and he is probably planning on next season. You know, it's starting to get really messy. It really is, and I don't get the approach from any of you. I really don't. I can see a comment down there from Jarl, which I will touch on in just a moment, because I'm not too sure if that's going to be the truth whenever I read deeper into the situation. Now, I want to go and look at some of these contenders. We go one by one. All the talk about 3 weeks ago came out from Jacob Steinberg, came out from The Guardian, and they basically jumped the gun early, trying to get the early scoop, trying to get the early message out there that Ten Hag was going to get sacked. And they said it was going to be Kieran McKenna. And that's what all the rumours was at the time. I remember doing a show and saying that this isn't the right time to do this. This was right before the FA Cup final. And thankfully that did prove to be incorrect. Kieran McKenna has since signed a new deal with Ipswich. Then all the talks shifted kind of towards Thomas Tuchel, and Thomas Tuchel has been in the media for quite a while as potential next coach of Manchester United. And I wouldn't be against Thomas Tuchel as manager, I really wouldn't. But according to a lot of sources, there was a meeting over the weekend between Thomas Tuchel, between Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and seemingly it didn't go well because Tuchel outlined his plans, what he would like to do with the team, spoke about the roles, and they've come out with no agreement. Tuchel will not be the manager. He's going to take a little while off from management. Then Pochettino's name came out. Sir Alex Ferguson allegedly pushing for Poch. This is something we know before, that Fergie is a fan of Pochettino, but I can't see that deal happening, and that does also seem to have been rubbish. Now, this morning came talk from a couple of different outlets that we were talking with De Zerbi, we had meetings with De Zerbi, and it hasn't gone away as of yet. I would say that it's pretty mild on that story at the moment. It's not really hotting up too much, but De Zerbi is certainly a candidate and certainly will be someone taken under consideration. He is leaving Brighton, and I have to say it's probably, if it's going to be anyone, I think it's going to be De Zerbi. And I don't think it's going to be Gareth Southgate if it is going to be a new manager for obvious reasons. England go the entire way through the Euros. He wouldn't be there until after the middle of July, and that's without a break and without getting to know the players. That's not how you organise for a new season. So I think we're basically in a camp where it's either going to be Erik ten Hag taking over in a new role as a head coach, or it's going to be someone like a De Zerbi, or it's going to be someone who we've been talking to in the background. At the moment, I'm not seeing a lot of movement on it either way, and this perpetual review seems to be going on for a very long time. And look, it's no surprise to mine that it's taken this long. There's been talks from Sir Dave Brailsford, clips going around in social media saying that he does take a long time to make decisions because he wants to get the exact right decision. Now, what does that actually mean? I don't know. I really don't. And I wish that we had some kind of answers. I wish that Manchester United would at least communicate it internally, so we will have something in the works. And I think that has to be the big hope, is that if we do change managers, everything has been in the works for a long time and it's a quick transition and we quickly get the next boss in. Or if Erik ten Hag's going to stay, I hope that that is communicated very quickly. Look, I'm going to go to what Jarl has said because it's an interesting comment. It comes from Rob Dawson. It says, Tuchel was refused. Dan Ashworth wants a yes manager rather than someone to challenge the recruitment department over the makeup of the squad. You know, I think that was always going to happen because we are bringing in an entire new board, an entire new structure to the team. We're not going to have a manager that's in the traditional sense of the Sir Alex Ferguson sense. He's going to have a lot of say over transfers. We're not going to get that. Most clubs don't have that nowadays. And I think just on a personal note from Rob Dawson, I'm very wary of anything he says at the moment. Rob Dawson told us the other day that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was about to be named the new manager of Besiktas. Within the hour, they had appointed and announced Giovanni von Bronckhorst. So I'm going to take Rob Dawson's reports at the moment with a pinch of salt. In the past, he's been reliable, but I think that's a big error to get, and it's not a good look for him. So I'm going to assume that he's probably reading into the situation. He's probably looking at fan sentiment at the moment, and he's probably going to have a look at it from that sense. And yes, United will want a manager who will work with and alongside the recruitment department, who will be involved a little bit, but most of the recruitment will be done by other people. And that's what we've needed to have for a very long time. I've been saying this for a long time, guys. Doesn't matter if it's Ten Hag, doesn't matter if it's Pep Guardiola. They need a recruitment department. You look at Pep at City, a lot of players he's asked for over the years, he hasn't got. He wanted Fred, he wanted Harry Maguire, he didn't get those players, and they've gone elsewhere. So yes, recruitment will be important, and I don't think it's a case that they want a yes man, that they want someone who's not going to challenge them, who's just going to turn up, say thank you for the paycheck. I don't think they're going to get that there. I think it's a very slow and very deliberate process. I hope it's because we're being really thorough and we're going to get the right man in charge, be that Ten Hag, be that somebody else. But I just think this has dragged on for a very long time. And I think that winning the FA Cup has really thrown a spanner in the works. I really, really, truly do, because all the words coming out of the club, all the look coming out of the club was that Ten Hag was going to get the boot. You know, we looked 2 weeks before the FA Cup final, we lost 4-0 to Crystal Palace. You know, we had a diabolical season in the league, a really bad season in the Champions League. Yes, we won the FA Cup, and I feel like that's probably swung some weight back in Eric Ten Hag's favour, but I don't like the indecisiveness. I said before the FA Cup final, if we're going to sack Ten Hag, we should do it regardless of what happens tomorrow in the FA Cup. We should do it quick. We should be respectful, of course, of the moment, but we should be making that call as soon as possible. Or if we're going to keep Ten Hag, we got to back him. You know, it's either sack him or back him. That's what I've been saying for the last 3 weeks. That's what I'll continue to say until we make some kind of decision. I think it's an interesting one, though, and it's definitely worth keeping an eye on, because this is the first big test of Ineos, really, as owners of Manchester United. And, you know, we need to see some kind of decisiveness on this situation. This cannot go on for any longer. This cannot continue to drag and drag and drag on and on and on, which it has been, because it's breeding frustration in the fan base. It's breeding a sense of distrust with this new ownership, which we were looking forward to a couple of months ago. But now it's very much a case that we're in the position of indecisiveness, fans questioning what's going on, and it's frustrating. You know, it really, really is. Now, look, today there has allegedly been meetings between Roberto De Zerbi and Manchester United. That is something that does seem to have happened, and I'm not surprised. You know, we're talking to different managerial options. This isn't something that a club who's intent on keeping the manager will do. Is it a case that Eric Ten Hag staying on is the worst case scenario for Ineos, that is their very last choice? If so, that doesn't send a particularly strong message, in my opinion, either, of faith in the manager or of competency in our actions. I would like to see us make these calls. If Ten Hag isn't going to be good enough, then you have to make that call. You have to make that decision. But we haven't, and we're still sitting here waiting. Now, other names being banded about, you're looking at Thomas Frank being talked about, De Zerbi. You know, the list is getting smaller, and the quality of the potential appointments, I feel, is dropping week on week. I think Pochettino, I think Thomas Tuchel would have been 2 real big front runners for this. I think McKenna would have been a very good option as well. And now we're going to De Zerbi. After that could be Thomas Frank. I mean, of course there's talk about Gareth Southgate, but to me, if England go the full way in the European Championships and they last the next month or so and they get to the final, then you look at a potential start date of mid-July, late July for a manager. That's not something we can have. You've no time to get a system across. You've no time to get your ideas across. International management, it's very, very different as opposed to club management, as we know, because for international teams, you don't get that amount of training. You don't get these massive and complex structures. Most of it is built on relationism. Most of it is built upon ideas, and most of it will be also built upon the climate and the environment for the players to go out there and enjoy themselves in. It's not going to be based upon an overlaying structure like you might see at a Pep's City or Klopp's Liverpool. You know, a really deeply embedded way of play. That's not something we've seen Gareth Southgate ever do. So I think it could be a very, very foolish mistake if we appoint Gareth Southgate. I think that's the worst possible scenario for Manchester United, and I don't think we're going to do it. I don't think that's the plan. I think he might be on a list, but I would be surprised if we end up going for Southgate. I really would be. I got comments down below. DK Wilson, good to see you, buddy. It's midday in Texas. Oh, very good to hear, man. Hope all is good in Texas as well. I'm sure it's nicer weather than what I've got over here in Northern Ireland. GK is saying, why is Ten Hag still under review? Because we want to make the right call. We want to make the right decision. But I mean, at what point does making the right decision just... At what point do we become overly thorough? What point do we overthink this and overcomplicate this and overanalyze it? Because I feel like we're getting into that kind of territory now with it as well, which is slightly concerning for me. And you know, that's a big concern as well, because you want to be efficient with this stuff. You know, you don't want to be sitting in another week's time and no decisions being made. I wouldn't read too much into that Rob Dawson report. I really, really wouldn't. And it's not that I have an issue with Rob Dawson as a journalist. I just look deeper into the situation. You know, on Saturday, Rob Dawson told us that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was going to be named the next manager of Besiktas in Turkey. Within the hour, they had appointed a completely different manager. I'm gonna ignore Dawson's reports for now. I know that it's being framed in such a way to make it look like United want a yes man, that they want someone who's just going to go, yes sir, I'm happy with these bad players, or I'm not going to question your authority or whatever. I think they want someone to work with them rather than against them or in their own interests. What happens from that point? Where do we go? I'm not too sure. Born Thunder, if United was an Italian club, issues would not have reached this far because the fans do not tolerate nonsense. We feel as a fan base. It's one of those. It's the kind of time where we can't really affect change that much. Yeah, you know, we can complain online. We can go to Twitter. We can voice our opinions on live streams and on YouTube channels. But you know, without matches, without anything really to send any kind of uniformed approach, we're just nameless, faceless accounts for the most part to Manchester United at the moment. Anyway, Jarl is down there. I'm 5% sure that Ten Hag continues as manager. 95% that he'll be gone now. Ten Hag, how can he work at a club where board tries to get a new manager? Trust is ruined. No, I would agree with that as well. You know, think about this from Erik Ten Hag's point of view. You've went on holiday. United have ran around and flirted with every manager that's currently available, and seemingly you're the very bottom of their list. And United's worst case scenario is Ten Hag staying on, seemingly going by these reports. So you know, that doesn't send a particularly good message to Erik Ten Hag. I don't know what the idea is going to be, or what the plans are going to be. I know that there's a lot of different messages being put out there, and I know that there's a lot of different concerns being put out there as well. Look, to me, to me, I think that other regimes, I think other platforms will have their own particular viewpoints and agendas as to why they're coming out with statements that they are. I've said that I'm going to give this time, and I'll stick by that there. I'm not going to come out swinging for the fences, going for the ownership, going for the directors and stuff that I've asked for weeks, months, and years to appoint. Genuine people to make really good footballing decisions on behalf of our club. And if we think about it, and it's took us a long time to get there, and we arrive at the right decision, be that keeping Ten Hag, be that sacking Ten Hag and getting the right man in, or if giving Erik Ten Hag further time is the right thing to do for Manchester United, then I'm all for that. I just want what's going to be best for the club. That's what we all want as a fan base. You know, we want to make the right decisions. I'm not going to complain too much that we're taking our time over it and going through every single potential candidate. Yeah, that's fair enough. I feel like this is stuff we could have been doing a long time ago, though, and that concerns me as well. And all the reports that we wanted to get directors in ahead of summer, and that was always the focus and the priority. That was good at the time when it came out, but I'm concerned at this point in the length of time that it's taken. Look, it's like I said, if we end up within the next 48 hours making a definitive call and either backing Ten Hag or sacking Ten Hag and getting someone else in who turns out to be really good, or if you give Eric Ten Hag the power and the backing to be the manager going forward, and he's able to focus on solely being a coach and making the team better every single week on the pitch, then yeah, that's a really good thing for our football club, no doubt about it. And I'm never going to complain too much about that. And in a year's time, we're not going to say, yeah, look, we got to the right destination, but it took until the 12th of June, to get there. It took a long time to make that decision up. As long as we get this right, and I think that's what they really are trying to do. I don't know if it's going to be a case that they're purposely wasting time or that they're dragging this out unnecessarily. I think they're going to try and make the best possible call. It's just taking a while to get there. Sometimes the right decisions can be the hardest ones to make. Either way with Ten Hag, and we're gonna have to find that out pretty soon anyway. Look, guys, on today's poll, we will get talking later in the show about transfers and different players potentially coming in. One I would like to talk about is Joao Neves, really heating up anyway in terms of a transfer. Whispers have grown into rumours, and look, it's all started off in the Portuguese press. A lot of it, Ogogo and I think it's Bola as well. I don't really read too far into those reports. So they told us for years Nicholas Gaitan was coming to United. They told us for a long, long time that we would be going after all these great Portuguese league players, and we never really did. So I'm happy. I'm happy enough to discount those, but I'm seeing people out here who I would trust and put some faith into their word, into what they're feeling, what they're hearing from the club. And yeah, it does look like Joao Neves is going to be a potential signing. I really like the player. I think he's really, really good. And I think if you put him beside Mano, you've got a pivot there that would definitely last for the next 10, 12 years. Really, really two exciting prospects. But, and there's a big but, I think the price tag's a big one, guys. He's got something like an 80 million pound buyout clause. I think that's what it equates to in pounds. That's a lot of money for a 19-year-old. And they will get that amount. Benfica are in the Champions League every year. They're a very well-run club. They're a good selling club in terms of prices they get. Look at the price they got from Liverpool for Darwin Núñez. So make no mistake about it, if we're going to Benfica, it's going to be a costly deal. It's going to be a deal that's going to cost a lot of money. And is that putting too much pressure on a 19-year-old's shoulders? Some would argue yes. Others would argue you'll never get him this cheap again. So it's one of those there, you have to make your mind up kind of things. I think a year ago, you could have got Joao Neves for a lot cheaper. And I think a year ago, everybody could see that he was going to be a top player. But as always, we don't act on these things. We don't react to these things, and we don't make the changes that are needed at the time. And maybe a better run club would have had to go for Joao Neves at the time. I don't know though. Jarl under. I think De Zerbi will be the next. Don't think De Zerbi will be the next manager. Don't think Poch either. United's looking for a yes man. Is Southgate a yes man? I don't think he is. If we're looking at yes man, it's going to be someone to work with him. It's going to be. I feel like that's being twisted in the media. I feel like that's been turned in the media as well, because whenever you say this here, if you actually read into what the article was saying, I feel like it's been misinterpreted. They want someone who's going to say yes to working with the recruitment department, yes to being the head coach and not the manager, yes to having people above him who he will be directly accountable for. I feel like that's more what the club are leaning into, rather than looking to someone who is blindly going to accept everything that they do. And maybe that was something you could have labelled at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Maybe that's something you could have labelled at different managers over the years. But I don't know. I feel like that's maybe been misconstrued. Maybe that's me being mindful. Maybe they are looking for someone who's just going to be yes sir, no sir, and maybe they'll go and get Graham Potter, who can't seem to get a job anywhere, and just say, look, Graham, we give you a job here, and you got to do exactly what we say. We're the ones running the show now. And don't totally dismiss Graham Potter either. That's still a potential appointment there, but that's such an easy appointment to make as well at the same time, in the sense that he would absolutely jump at a chance to manage United after Chelsea went so wrong, and that he's currently out of work at the moment. So that's what would lead me to think that you're going to be seeing that's what I think you're going to be seeing. Anyway, DK Wilson, Neves scares me because he's awful slight. I can see physical players in the Premier League potentially running him over. I would agree with that. That's one of my concerns with Joao Neves. I think the talent is there. Can he play alongside Manu? Can he be a long-term partner for Kobe Manu? I don't think so. Maybe not. Maybe not at the moment. He is slight, and you do run the risk of getting overrun in physical matches. I think we need to up the physical ceiling and the physical flooring of our team as well, especially in midfield. You need runners, you need strong players, especially aerially. And I think you do need players to hold their positions and be good on the ball. I'm not thinking that Sofian Amrabat is a world-beating player. I'm not thinking that Amrabat is the best number 6 in football, because he's not. But what he is a proper number 6. And I think when you put him into that team towards the back end of the season, we got better results because of it. You got a better midfield performance and a better balance with Manu and Bruno. So I think if you can get someone to come in and do Amrabat's job at a better level, to be a better, more technically secured player, and maybe with a better physical engine on him, then I think that's the kind of player you want. So someone to hold down the fort, somebody to enable the others to play, who can still bring their own unique traits and qualities to the game, and I think that's important. But overall, I think it's interesting. So Fresh, are they just scouting managers and holding Ten Hag sacking off in case they get no one? I mean, reading into that's kind of the consensus you might come to at times as well. It's like, is keeping Ten Hag like the very worst thing? Is that what they're gonna do if they literally can't get anybody else? That doesn't really send a strong signal of faith. And if they do genuinely believe that Ten Hag isn't the right man, then that's a question mark. Against him, why haven't they backed him? Guys, drop a like on the video if you can. I can see there's 30 people in here and we have 14 likes. Let's see if we can get those likes up. Lucky Singh would like to see Tejan Koopmeiners. He's a good player, but he's not a number 6. I think Ederson from Atalanta could be an interesting one, to be honest. Jika said, what players you want, what coach you want? Oh, good shot. I'm pretty open-minded on the coaching situation. I can see the merits for keeping Ten Hag. I can also see every argument for sacking Ten Hag. I'm not going to forget, despite how good the FA Cup final was, how bad this season was overall and how hard it was watching our team routinely make the same mistakes over and over again. And if it is to be Ten Hag, I think he's got to shape up. Whether or not I think De Zerbi's ready to take a step up to manage United, I don't know. I mean, I would have took Tuchel if we were going to sack him, to be honest, because I think he's just got a good system. He's a proven manager, can deal with big ego players. He's won trophies everywhere he's went. And the last season of Bayern Munich wasn't really his fault. They've been a disaster behind the scenes. I mean, they've hired Vincent Kompany to be their manager, who got Burnley relegated. I mean, that's the level Bayern Munich are at the minute. But yeah, I'm pretty open-minded anyway. But if we're talking players, look, I think Amadou Onana would be a really good shout for that sort of midfield role. I think another really good one would be Fofana from Monaco. I think really good technical player, physical player, and you get him relatively cheap. He's going to leave Monaco this season. That could be a deal that gets done. And I think you've got to look really hard at centre back positions as well. There's talk about Brantwaite, of course, but there's other talk as well. Will be brewing. I would have took out a Rabiot, to be honest, but we'll see. There's talk about Trevor Chalobah from Chelsea. I don't know if that's necessarily the answer we need to come to, but I do want to see centre backs brought in as well. I'm pretty open minded on the players, to be honest. I think we need a striker. And I think he needs to bring something different. I really wouldn't be against going after a Scamacca or someone like that either. Bourne said Real Madrid or Bayern can easily sign Neves for 40 million, but clubs know United are dumb and can cough up 80. Yeah, that's true for the most part, but Neves has got a buyout clause of that, so they don't have to take that. Jarl says Ten Hag made United into a mid-table team this season. Think about that for a moment. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We finished 8th place and we had a lot of injuries, but I think some of it's very interesting. You could see that you can really see some interesting comments coming out from Luke Shaw, who probably said too much in relation to his injury, where he said that he wasn't exactly fit. The medical team asked him did he want to play, and he said yes, and the medical team passed him even though he wasn't fit, and the manager picked him even though he wasn't fit, and it was kind of everybody's fault that he got injured the entire time. So that's not a good sign. I don't know if that's exclusively Ten Hag's fault. There's been issues with the medical staff for a long time at the club, and it's not just Luke Shaw who's been injured. But it's a really interesting one, guys. It does look like we've met with De Zerbi over the job, and that we've spoken to Thomas Frank, and that we've spoken to Maurizio Pochettino. We had a meeting with Thomas Tuchel over the weekend, and seemingly we're no closer to making a final call. Seemingly we're no closer to making our ultimate decision. It does look like, to me, reading into it, that journalists and a lot of people who might have got information from the club before are not getting that information anymore, and I think that's maybe more telling. And I would rather that. I would rather radio silence coming out of Old Trafford than every single little bit of detail getting leaked to the press because somebody's upset somewhere. It does look to be a tighter run ship. And if it continues to be that way, I have no problem with it. We've been saying for a long time, stop the leaks. So I hope we can. Let me see. Who have I got? Carpy's under. United had a bad season because of injuries and players out of position. Ten Hag did well under the circumstances. I mean, yeah and no. He will be ultimately responsible, I think, for the results of the team on the pitch, like every other manager would be. I don't think he'll get any kind of credit in that sense. I don't think he'd get any kind of a pass in a lot of ways, and I don't think he should either. I feel like there are things that Erik ten Hag could have done and should have done that would have made a big difference. And the way we approached the last game of the season against Man City, we could have implemented a style of play like that more. We had it within us. It was the same players we had against Crystal Palace 2 weeks before, and we got beat 4-0 because we did repeatedly play the same system, making the same mistakes every single week, and it was a big issue for us. It really was. So I don't know. I feel like it's an interesting one for sure because Ten Hag could have done better in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, his hands were tied. And had he Martinez all season, had he Varane all season, had he Højlund fit all season, that would have been a lot better for him. I'm sure if we would have made more mistakes, but some of the fundamental tactical issues were there regardless of who the personnel was as well. So, across the board, I feel like everyone's got to take some blame for what was a bad season with a good ending. I'm not going to call it a good season, even though we did win the FA Cup, and it was a fantastic day for the club and really great day to be a fan. Anyways, let me see. Carpy's in there. If United don't get Neves this season, the Euros, his demand will triple. He'll go to City and replace Rodri. A big team will snap him up. I mean, yeah, that's also the argument. He will cost a lot of money, but you might never get him this cheap again. That's the flip side of it. It's one of those. We're already late to the party. If we go any later, we might not make the party full stop. And that probably applies across the board with a lot of different things at the club right now. It's very quiet. It does look like we're going to miss out on a key target in Michael Olise, a player I really like and would love for us to have signed. It does look like we are financially constrained until the 1st of July, until the FFP resets, and then we can spend a lot of money. I don't know though. I do wish that we could get this done pretty quickly. DK Wilson, Ten Hag wanted to bring in his own trainer. Joel Glazer said no. I don't know if he did, man. Did he? The only thing I can say is that I really don't think Joel Glazer would have too much of a say or would really care too much about that. He cares more about bottom lines and marketable players. Anyways, Carpy, Ten Hag, no defence most of the season. No other manager alive would have done better. I mean, yeah, but he could have protected the defence better by not letting them face so many shots as well. These are other things. We had Amad Diallo, who's clearly a better player all round than Anthony, barely feature all season. We've had players run into the ground. We've had players play through injuries and get re-injured and stuff. So Ten Hag has to take some blame. Individual players, yeah, they got to work on their fitness. Yeah, they got to work on their performance levels. And had we a fit team the whole way through the season, we would have done better, no doubt about it, because you can't compare a backline of Luke Shaw, Martinez, Varane, Dallo, to the backline we played for a lot of the season, which was Wan-Bissaka right back, Dallo left back, Johnny Evans, and Victor Lindelof or Harry Maguire. There's no comparing those two. So yeah, we probably would have conceded less goals, but would we have conceded less shots? Probably not. Because mistakes were still there. We were still facing those shots regardless of who was playing. Jarl is right, to be fair. Newcastle and Chelsea have more injuries and they did better. Yes, they did, but on the same hand, that's arguably as much of a symptom of our bad squad management that we only have one left-footed centre-back. That in Luke Shaw, we only have one good left-back. In Højlund, we only had one striker all season, and most of the time during the season, we didn't pass him the ball. That's as much down to bad team building and bad squad managing as well. I don't know though. Blessings down there. United meet De Zerbi for tea. They might have had coffee. They might have had a coffee or might have had ice cream. I don't know. Lucky Singh says no more back pocket situation. I think I missed a comment from Jeremy somewhere. What did Jeremy say? Let me just check. Jeremy, Amrabat is solid, just needs to work on awareness. He's not the worst player. I just don't know if I could justify spending 15, 16 million on him, to be honest. GK, do you think Rashford worth it anymore? And Anthony, I'm jury's out on Rashford. It really, really is. But we'll see what happens. You know, he's come off his best seasons whenever he's had a long break over the summer. But yeah, I think next season will be interesting. Next season he will be 27. He's got to start delivering again next season. Cannot have another goal. Sorry, can't have another season in single figures in terms of goals. That's just not at the level that we need. Anthony, yeah, I just don't think there's a player there, man. I really don't. DK said, yeah, a couple of people reported this with Ten Hag's up-tempo style. Makes sense. He'd have the guy who trained his Ajax teams. I'll have to look into that one. GK said I want Rodrigo in and Anthony and Rashford out. I mean, I like Rodrigo. I don't know if you replace two players with him, though. Carpy says, you said about protecting the defence. There was no defence. He had slow centre-backs. We couldn't play a high line for compact midfield. If you had faster centre-backs, it would have had the problem. I mean, yeah and no, because the back line didn't press. We didn't commit the full-backs to the press, so they always dropped back. And whenever they dropped back, that left Casemiro in the middle of the pitch trying to deal with runners from the opposition team. This happened so many times last season where we would be completely transitioned upon. The back line would be 40 yards back. We'd have the midfield here. We'd have a massive gap where everybody could just burst into. You can see it so many times against Liverpool. You've seen it against Crystal Palace, against Newcastle this season. This is a reoccurring thing that happened every single time we played most weeks. You know, match day one, we did it against Wolves. We conceded more shots than any other team in the league, more shots than the worst ever team in the Premier League history in Derby County, 07-08. And yeah, look, you can make the arguments about the centre-backs being quicker and more athleticism in the back line. That would make a big difference, yeah. But fundamentally, you can't press halfway. You have to press the full way or don't press at all, because that way you're just running forward with the top half of your team and the bottom half of the team's running backwards. You're basically playing with two different teams. It doesn't work. And most of the shots that we are facing, even if we had the best centre backs available to us, our first choice, our Varans or Martinez's, they can't stop the shots. You know, by the time the ball gets into shooting positions, the rest of the team is already fielded. It's up to the defence then to try block the shots, stop the shots getting through to Andre Onana. But that's a big concern because we were already facing those shots regardless of who we were playing. So that's an issue Ten Hag has to fix. That's a big problem that he had all season. And thankfully, for the biggest match of the season, he did deal with that situation, and he dealt with it very well. And that's the kind of tactical flexibility we wanted to see. Last season, we've seen it on occasions when we needed to be more pragmatic, and it wouldn't have hurt us to at least have tried it at different times this season, I don't think. So yeah, I mean, I'm willing to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. If he's going to be our manager next season, I'm not going to be furious. I'm not going to be pulling my hair out. But I do think he's got issues where he needs to work on what we're delivering on the pitch. I think he's got issues where he needs to work upon what kind of systems we're putting in. The press is a real mess. You can't not press with your fullbacks if you're going to press with the midfield and the forward line, because you just end up with half your team running one way, the other half running the other way, and all the space in the world once that initial press is bypassed. And that's not good enough for Manchester United. So he's got to work on that. Will personnel selection help him? Will another summer transfer window help him if we increase the physicality in our team, get full-backs maybe who can press, centre-backs who can cover better? Hell yeah, that's going to help a lot. That's really going to help. But we're going to find out in the next couple of days, hopefully, where we're going with this review, because it's just getting frustrating at this point that we're sitting here weeks upon weeks into this review, and we just want it done. You know, we just want to get through this. We just want this to be over. I'm trying not to read into the Rob Dawson interview too much, because that seems to be where most of this news is coming from. I've no problem with Rob Dawson as a journalist. I just think that I'm being dubious at the minute because of what happened with the Oli Besiktas job. He basically said Oli was going to be the Besiktas manager, and then within an hour, it was Giovanni von Bronckhorst announced by Besiktas. It was completely nonsensical. Anyway, United's keeping things under wrap. Let's hope that it's going to be effective. Let's hope that it's going to be it's going to be good. I don't know though. I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know at this point, guys. And I think we can just look forward to the Euros, to be honest. I think it'd be a nice distraction from us having some football to look forward to. Hello to Bart. Good to see you, buddy. Jarl, I won't be upset if Ten Hag continues. Either way, I'm very fine with it. Yeah, that's not too bad. I would agree with that. Onana was one of the biggest problems this season. No question. How can someone's positioning be so bad? At times, individual errors, yeah, but I wouldn't disagree with that. But I do think from Onana that there has been some positive signs. A lot of saves being made. He outperformed his XG. So basically, he was saving more goals than what he should have. We would have conceded more if not for Onana. Even last season with De Gea, we conceded more goals than we should have. We conceded less goals than we should have this year. If we go by the numbers, by the stats, which I know not everyone's a big fan of, but our stats are that of a mid-table team. Really, really low down the league. Lucky Singh would like to see AC Milan go for Mason Greenwood. Look, I wouldn't complain about that. I think that's a sale we get done, and Mason Greenwood's an important sale this summer because Greenwood goes as complete profit for FFP. As an academy graduate, he goes down with no deductions on the book. So that's a big sale, and hopefully we can get a decent bit of money for him. Hopefully. Rajad is down there. Good to see you, buddy. Jarl said if Southgate comes in, I will not watch United until he's gone. I mean, if Southgate comes in, I'll be so disappointed because he's a bad manager. I don't get the tactics from him. I don't think he's ever implemented a system that really works. He plays very boring football with England, and to me, it could be an absolute disaster from the logistics point of view. If we have a manager, let me just put this up for you guys. England are expected to go on very, very far into Euro 2024. Many places are putting them out there as the favourites. I wouldn't call them the favourites, but they're expected to go very, very far in that tournament. If England go the entire way to the final, which is possibly conceivable, even if they get to semi-finals, you're looking at a long, 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 long time before your manager comes in. Very long time. The final for Euro 2024 is the 14th of July. That's going to be when we're on pre-season. That's going to be whenever we're trying to get a system into these players. So we can't afford to wait for Gareth Southgate if England go that deep. There's no way you can justify waiting to that point in time to bring in Gareth Southgate. If Gareth Southgate was available right now, I wouldn't want him at United. Let's put it that way. Anyways, Rajat wants to know who wouldn't take Joao. I think Joao Neves is absolutely fantastic. I think the concerns are twofold. I think you've got an age concern, and that comes to physicality, which will improve over time. You've also got a price concern. He's going to be, £80 million? It's a lot of money on a 19-year-old, and that's a lot of our transfer budget going to get blown if we go with him. Rajat said Greenwood could go to Fenerbahce with Jose. He could do. Maybe put Greenwood in the Neves deal. That's potential as well. That could happen. What have I got? Abede saying, please United, I want Coman, Euro, Kudus, Frimpong. Karim Benzema is an interesting one. Danny Olmo, Ignacio, Felix, Tadibo, Carriquez, Bremer, in Ten Hag, Greenwood, Evans, Martial, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Anthony, and Casemiro. I'm presuming that's out. I think we could go for some of those players. I think there might be something in the Delaney Euro links, but I can't see him going anywhere other than Real Madrid, to be honest. I like Frimpong, but unless you're signing him to be a right winger, I wouldn't bother signing him because he just doesn't have the defensive instincts. He's not playing there at all. Rajat Neves, potentially the next De Jong, but does that give us the balance with Manu? That's what I would like to know, because I think Kobe Manu is going to be the future of our football club in the midfield area anyway. GK says Ibrahimov, yeah, absolute fantastic young player, really going to go on and do special things in the game. Top talent, and according to many, quite similar to Wayne Rooney. I don't know. I haven't watched enough of the under-16 matches really to see it for myself, but I know he's a top candidate. I know he's a top talent, and we'll just see what happens with that there one. But still, the wait goes on. An interesting update coming out from the Telegraph. United would consider offers of 40 million for Jadon Sancho. I'm sure they would, but no one's going to offer us that much for Sancho. Let's be real. That's just not going to happen, is it? It's just not going to happen. Who have I got down below? Banda, will Ten Hag get sacked? That's the question we were asking. I think if you guys want to know my honest opinion, and I'm going to look into this here, and this is what I'm going to say. The thing is with Erik Ten Hag, he is back from his holiday now. He is looking to come back to work. We, in the 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks or so that Erik ten Hag has been away on holiday, what we have done is run around Europe looking for every possible manager. We've gone from Tuchel, we've gone from Alonso, we've gone from De Zerbi, Pochettino, Thomas Frank's been talked to, Graham Potter's probably been talked to, Gareth Southgate's probably been talked to, Miguel from Girona was talked to at one point as well. There was probably talks for Thiago Motta, among others, Kieran McKenna. So you're looking at, what, 10 managers there. Is that the actions of a club who are really going to keep their manager, who are intent on keeping Erik ten Hag? Probably not. And it does start to feel that it gets to the point that if we can't get the right person we want, and that does seem to be a very wide and very broad spectrum, if we can't get another person in, we'll keep Erik ten Hag, which is not the kind of signs that I want to be seeing. You know, it's really not, because think about it. Who wants to be stuck with the last choice? If we don't think Erik ten Hag's the right man, and if we think that any other manager, Thomas Frank or Pochettino or Kieran McKenna, are going to be better, then why would we keep Erik ten Hag in that case? You know, that's not setting a good precedent. That doesn't really relate to we want the best of the best in every position at this club, be it on the pitch, be it off the pitch. You know, that doesn't relate to that there, because it just looks like you're settling for whatever's best. The Grey Man says United need to win the 3-year project reassessed next summer if no improvement. GGMU. I think we're going into a 3-year project, and I think Ineos' intention will be to start the project now. They won't want to wait for another season, and neither do we. You know, we don't want another nothing season, a transitional season. We want to start building towards something for the long term. And if Erik ten Hag is the long-term man, what you do? You go and give him a 2-year contract. You show that commitment. You show that faith in the manager. And that will keep him here for another 3 years. That will give Erik ten Hag 5 seasons overall, and we'll see what happens. If not, then appoint who you're going to appoint and give them 3 seasons and see what happens. At some point, we're going to have to stick with something. At some point, we're going to have to build towards something. Carpy sent Barner having to clear out. Delit, Kimmich, Coman, and others. Got to be worth a look at. We'll probably look at some of them. DK Wilson, if Ten Hag has been fired, would he even be in England? Well, I'm assuming he's got a house in England now. At this point, he's been here 2 years. I would assume so. Hello to Lou Man. Good to see you, buddy. Carpy, any who said that pick how United play, that's the case. Why interview 5 managers with different style play? That makes no difference. Yeah, that's a good point, but they're probably thinking of what that style of play is going to be. Maybe they haven't quite decided on what it's going to be, which is concerning in itself. Rajad said, I'm tired with 2-year cycle, rebuild this, rebuild that, few cups with Mourinho, Ten Hag. Yeah, it's just not sustainable. It's just not. And I would say, like, we had one of the best moments of recent times winning the FA Cup this season. Absolutely fantastic time. Big ups to Bath Time. Good to see you, buddy. It is summer. We're enjoying some sunshine here. Not too warm though. But look, I would say that around everything. You know, we had a fantastic way to end the season with the FA Cup, but overall it was a very, very poor season. And there's no getting away from the fact we finished 8th place in the league, and the league table doesn't lie. You know, you finish where you deserve to finish, and arguably, according to the stats, we should have finished lower. You'll always finish there or thereabouts. Whilst a team like Arsenal have improved this season and will improve next time as well. Bathheim said, can you add to your poll? Neves is 5'7", and that's a big problem for a team our size. Yeah, that's what I thought, man. You know, I like him. I think he's a really good player, a really top talent, and he definitely is going to be a top player for somebody. But is that going to give us what we need? I don't know. Lucky Singh says, bored crap. And no more average managers. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that there. We don't want to be stuck in 2-year cycles, sacking managers and maybe winning an FA Cup or a League Cup along the way. You know, that's not what this club's about. And you know, we're better off having long-term progress and success in that sense, than winning the odd trophy here and there and saying that we've had a better season than teams who are getting 89, 90 points. Because, you know, fundamentally we haven't, and there's more chance of Arsenal going out next season and winning a Champions League or a Premier League than there is of us getting anywhere near those trophies. So yeah, you know, we got to build upon it. We got to build towards something, and I think that's going to be absolutely key to what we want to do. Limad says, they are old and new owners have good intentions. We know the Glazers don't. We're going to find out what kind of intentions Ineos have. At the minute, it seems to be very, very intent on making a very thorough and very well thought out decision. But at what point do we start going in circles? What point do we end up getting further and further from the destination because we're exploring all possible avenues? It kind of feels like It kind of feels like you're playing a video game, and like you'll have like a door or a passageway up to the next level, but there's all these little side rooms that you can go in and explore in between. It feels like we're going down every side room, looting every chest, looking for every possible side quest before we actually progress on with the main story, and that's what we got to get doing. Main story time at Manchester United. That's what we need. Bath Time says 5'7" centre back, 5'7" DM, and a 5'9" box to box. That isn't going to fly. Well, according to Cobby, he's 6 foot. To be fair, according to Cobby, he is 6 foot. He said in an interview. I don't know if it's true or not. Karan says Ten Hag needs one more time. He needs to be trained easy so players don't get injured. Batham says unless it was hobbits, go away, Eagle. Yeah, I mean we gotta go direct. We gotta go direct with it. I love the reference. I do love the reference there. But it's an interesting one, guys. I don't think giving Ten Hag 1 year and seeing how it goes fixes anything. I don't think giving him to Christmas does anything, because if it goes wrong and you sack him, then what? You're stuck in the middle of the season having to appoint an interim and basically writing the season off until you can go into the manager market next season. You got to be decisive with this. If you think Ten Hag's a man, then you got to back him with some kind of a long-term commitment, a 2-year deal, for example, or a 2-year extension. Bath Time likes Chalobah, excellent passer, he's captain of England at every level except for senior level. He's not bad. He really isn't bad, and arguably they're signing, and Chelsea have worse players ahead of him in the pecking order. Not a bad player, and for the right price, I wouldn't be too against it. DK Wilson says, when asked about sitting down to do a season review with Radcliffe after the final, Ten Hag said, no, we've already did that on Sunday, I'll go on holiday, I think I deserve it, as per The Sun. Yeah, that was Ten Hag's comments. Ineos have obviously done their own review, and we'll see where it's going to take us. But it does feel like we're side questing at the minute, that we're talking to all the NPCs in the area before we move on to the next the next level of the game, I guess. I feel like that's kind of where we are at the minute. I don't know though. Lucky Singh says 1 year contract's fine. I would rather look at it as a 3-year project, which it is, to be fair, and it's going to take a while for us to get there. Eldev Art says Adidas sweatshops paying children 34p an hour. Yeah, I mean that's its own problem in itself, and it won't be exclusive to Adidas. That's a lot of brands out there, so make sure to shop responsibly, I guess. Thankfully, this isn't a real top either. Yeah, look, I honestly am not too surprised about it. DK's down there as well. Lucky Singh says back me with Eric Ten Hag. I mean, look, we'll see what happens. I guess that's all we can really say. We'll see what happens. That's about all we can really do at this point in time. But it's interesting. It's interesting because in seasons gone by, there would be minutes by minutes reviews and comments from all these meetings. Bath Time says we've got some extraordinarily detailed leaks on Tuchel, clearly from his side, but the leaks are leaking. And yeah, it's one of those, buddy. It's one of those. That's obviously come from Tuchel's side. That's far too detailed for it to come from anywhere else, really, and I doubt we're going to be leaking that there ourselves. So that's come from him. I would assume that the talk about Ten Hag getting sacked a couple of weeks ago was when Chelsea were talking to Kieran McKenna, and McKenna turned them down. They probably assumed he was going to United, and that's where that came from. Hence why a lot of London-based newspapers came out with the story. That would make sense to me. That's all adding up in my head. You all said if Ten Hag does stay, he needs a new contract and proper backing. I don't want to repeat what's happening this summer next year. Absolutely, Jarl. You want this to be a one-off thing. You want this to be the right decision for the next 3 years. That's what you want, and you want to see it through that process. And if ideally you get to a point where the club starts to run itself, the systems and the mechanisms and the gears and the cogs and stuff, it's all kind of automated. The directors are making calls to scouting boards and the coaches and stuff, and if we need to take one manager out and put another in, we don't have to do a complete 180-degree flip on what we've been building towards for the last 3 years. That's how a proper club would be run. Hello to Ghani. Most people don't seem to get the situation. We don't have much to spend, and Ten Hag hasn't improved our players' market value. Even if he stays, he wouldn't get the players he wants. Yeah, that's arguably true as well. It's interesting because how much of this summer is going to be director and scout based, and how much of it is going to be manager based. I think we can all agree that a lot of Eric Ten Hag's recruitment, regardless if he stays or not, hasn't really been good enough. Casemiro, extremely short-term signing. Christian Eriksen, short-term signing. Then you start to look at some other players as well. You look at Anthony, bad signing. You look at Hoyland, very unproven, very raw player. A lot of potential there, a lot of talent there, but we still got work to do with him. Onana came in, made quite a few mistakes at the start. Probably has evened out something to what he can play like. And you look at other players as well, and you look across that team at some of the recruitment. Amrabat, maybe not the best signing for us. Martinez, yeah, Martinez is a good signing, but injuries kind of have drilled it last season. I mean, he has to stay fit moving forward. But look, I would say that's probably going to do us for today's stream. Let me see. Was that LD Art? You fund that and don't care. Plenty of ethical brands, and Adidas are not one of them. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're not, but it's like I said, this isn't actually a real shirt, so it's not actually come from Adidas, so it's okay. There is definitely ethical brands out there, and always do make sure you shop ethical and don't support sweatshops and child labor farms and stuff. I feel like that. I feel like that's a given. I feel like if you can do your research and look into it, don't do that. Don't do that. Gregory says, my opinion, sack Ten Hag and they will regret it because Thomas, he can't manage the team. It won't be Tuchel, to be fair. Banda says, instead of keeping Ten Hag in charge, we better sack him because nothing will get better. I'm telling you, the area the better. See, it's interesting to see that because a lot of United fans and fan zones out there are kind of putting the narrative out there that all the fans want Erik Ten Hag, and I think it's important we listen to both sides of the debate and both sides of the argument. It really is. Look, guys, I'm going to leave the stream here, so thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for enjoying the show with us tonight. Should be live again tomorrow, so let's hope we have something else and some more details to talk about as well. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it, guys. Have a good Monday night, and I'll catch everyone in the next one.